Cattle Call Podcast. Smoke and Mirrors, September 2020. It is about 11:15 on September 30th. I'm barely getting this in time. I had decided I'm going to do Sober October. Now, I've never done it. Technically, I have, but this is, by choice. Sober October, so I'm not going to do any alcohol, any tobacco. So that means when I record on November 1st to do Smoke and Mirrors for October, that'll be my first cigar. So I'm doing a cigar right now, trying to get it in before midnight. And I'm out here in my back patio in Memphis, Tennessee, doing a quick reflection. Again, I'm Isaac Weston. Thank you guys so much for the support so far. I believe this is my third Smoke and Mirrors. First one had my dad. Then I did one for last month, which I recorded on my birthday for the month of August. Now I'm doing it September 30th for the month of September. So thank you guys. I've got a ton of support. Actually, quick shout out to my friend Ashley Courtney, who this afternoon while I was working on some schoolwork, she shot me a text just telling me how she loved the podcast and been listening to it for a while at work and just encouraging me. So stuff like that makes my day. Again, we're so early in hopefully the lifespan of Cattle Call that I'm still trying to figure it all out. I'll listen back to episodes and critique myself and hear a lot of likes and ums and a lot of space fillers. So I'm still trying to work through that, get better about that. Comes with time. So we're still early. So when you hear these encouraging messages, it's just kind of a reminder that, people are identifying with stuff and they're taking to it and they still enjoy it, even though I'm trying to figure it out day by day. So had a couple great guests this month. This will come out before my most recent interview will come out. So I'll technically only be reflecting on Lauren Berry and Rebecca Hart. But I did record with Kristen Lusby last night. And I was supposed to record with Josh Vinson, who will be coming out mid-October. But we got canceled due to trips we both had to take. And he had something run late. So that got rescheduled. So I was supposed to have two more to reflect on. But due to some of the information and Kristen's, that had to be pushed back a week. And due to Josh's reschedule, that had to be pushed back a couple weeks. Anyway, I still will be reflecting on Lauren Berry and Rebecca Hart. First off, they were just great. Great interviews. Enjoyed the mess out of both of them. Lauren Berry is now the third most listened to episode, which is cool just because, being the first female guest and just the great time we had. We truly do have a great time. And there's kind of more I want to talk about that later on, why her and I get along so well. But yeah, it was just great to hear her perspective. Great to kind of catch up on the mic, hear more about what she does and who she is and what she has done, which is just great to hear. It's always great to hear someone else's story. She likes to travel, which is great. I was listening to, I believe I was watching Ravi Zacharias's memorial the other night. It's about 3 hours long, so it took me a while to get to it. But I believe it was during that time they were talking about what Ravi did for his career, which he traveled. He was between 70, 80 countries every single year, gone 200 days a year. He was always traveling. And I can't remember who originally said the quote, but it's about, life is a book, and those who don't travel never get past the first page. So there's something about traveling that just taps into the next level of life, shows you more about life. You learn more, you grow more, your horizons are expanded. And hearing Lauren just talk about how she traveled abroad and how she travels for work and just loves to travel, and even coming from a different city to Memphis. I mean, even that, like coming from Dallas to Memphis are two different worlds. So how beautiful traveling is and how it's something all of us should be utilizing. It's okay to be a homebody. It's okay to love where you come from and cherish that. But yeah, just the desire to get out, which Rebecca did the same. Rebecca's traveled kind of all over and would like to travel, is open to traveling anywhere. So just being around two women that like to travel, have traveled, hope to travel more in the future, just kind of a reminder that that's not any insult to where you're from or even the United States, which I think is the greatest country to ever have existed. But it's not an insult to the United States or to your hometown to say, hey, there's other places that got cool cultures I want to experience. So just kind of a reminder to all of us to, get out and see the world. You have to excuse me. I'm trying to keep my cigar going. So yeah, just a great time. Great time with Lauren Berry. I'll get more into it here later, but so Lauren and I have been friends for, I guess now it's over probably 4.5 years, and we were friends we became friends the primaries for the 2016 election, and her and I just politically don't see eye to eye, but she is one of my favorite people on the planet. And I was so excited to just get to hang out with her. And of course, she was a wonderful hostess, having me over to her apartment so we could, watch the sunset on her balcony and record and smoke cigars. And we have a great deal where I bring cigars and she brings drinks, or we go out and, she buys one round, I buy the next. However, we always have this great equal deal where, I bring the cigars, she brings the drinks, which is exactly what we did. She had the wine, and we just had a great time. And even though we do not see eye to eye politically, we really are great friends. We are great friends, and I really do love and cherish Lauren, probably more than she knows, but it transcends politics, which right now, as I record this is 24 hours after the first and possibly only presidential debate between Donald Trump and Joe Biden, former vice president, current president. And if you watched, it was a mess. I'll reflect more on it later. But just looking at Lauren and I, not that we're perfect people or have a perfect relationship by any means, but I do truly believe if America could converse and could view each other the way Lauren and I view each other, we would be in such a better state. We would kind of be back in the state we were in when we were founded as a country, where the founding fathers had different ideologies, but they had the same end goal, which was to protect America and leave it in a better state than how you found it. And right now, that's not where we're at. It's I'm right, you're wrong. And not only are you wrong, but I hate you for being wrong and not seeing eye to eye with me. And then people start coming over and go, okay, I'll try to appease you. And it's still not enough. So that's just cancel culture, though. But I just love the balance Lauren and I have struck. So it was great just to be able to converse. And she was so natural. She was just so natural. I noticed the first sentence out of her mouth, just how comfortable and confident she was. Not that every guest I've had is not, but just when we talk, maybe it was because it was so natural just to converse, or it's just that's how she is. That's how she's wired. She's just good at talking. She's good at presenting. She's a presentable person. So I was amazed as soon as we started recording just how natural it was for her. And I was like, okay, this is going to be a good podcast because she doesn't have, nerves right now. She is like ironclad almost. But yeah, we just had a great time and just, again, value her and value our relationship, how politics is and everything, and how we can remain friends even if we don't agree on topics. So yeah, just thankful for Lauren. Thank you for coming on, Lauren. People really took to it. A lot of people contacted me saying whether that was their favorite episode or how much they enjoyed it or how good she was, or even had my friend Mary talk about how she would love to hang out with her if she ever came to New York. So people just, they naturally take to Lauren. She's a people person. But, yeah, she did a great job. It's always great, too, just to, hang around women. It's especially as a guy, when you can trust who they are and you trust their heart, that where they're coming from is going to be a different place than yours. But they're going to provide a whole new perspective with no ulterior motive to it. It's just who they are and what they see and what they've experienced, what they believe, which was very refreshing coming from Lauren and then Rebecca and then Kristen. Just understanding a whole new side of life. And as a Christian, it's so important to differentiate between man and woman. Society's telling us, no, anything, men can do, like women can do as well, if not better. How we need to level the playing field. And in a lot of ways we do. We absolutely do. Like, men and women are equal. Like, they're both humans. They're both God's creation. But it's okay to say they have different roles and different responsibilities. That's not that doesn't discount any of what man can do if like women can also do it. And so, oh no, women aren't as strong because men have that role. So women need to have that role to prove they are strong. It's not an insult. Again, just by you leaving to go to Europe and see Europe, that doesn't mean the United States is a terrible country now. It just means it's different, and it different things have entailed there when you go there to experience that than they would if you just stayed home. So it's the same thing as men and women. I don't know if I relayed that message as clearly as I could have, but men and women are different, and that is okay because that's how they were designed to be. We shouldn't have inequality and stuff like if they have the same capabilities, they should be compensated differently. That we gotta get past that. I mean, that's okay to say, hey, like this woman can do what a man can, so let's pay her a man's wage. I mean, I think that's fair. A lot of people may disagree with that or say no, she should be paid more to make up for stuff in the past. We got to start here at square one. We can't undo the past. So let's just move forward, and let's accept that men and women offer different things, and that's okay. And they can complement each other. That's not insulting to the other sex. It's okay. Rebecca Hart, great job, great guest. Loved having her on. Didn't realize how much she laughed until I was editing. She is a joyful person. Rarely get to see her, but man, do I love when I do get to see her. Kind of the same with Lauren. I only get to see Lauren a couple times a year. I only get to see Rebecca a couple times a year, but have such wonderful times and value the time I do get to spend with them. So thank you to Rebecca for coming on. First guest I've had over at my house, so that's kind of cool. But forgive me, I gotta get my cigar going again. So, yeah, had her over, had a great time, made a whole night of it, hung out. My girlfriend came over and hung out with her, and she hung with my roommate Lee. We all know each other from the same Orlando project. So it's kind of cool just getting to, I guess, be nostalgic for a second, kind of reminisce, recollect some of those times we've had together. That was kind of nice. So definitely valuable, definitely okay to dwell on the past there for a second, as long as I don't make a lifestyle of it. But yeah, just a great time, learned a lot. Great to kind of be with a nurse during this time. So she's been, on the front lines of COVID the whole time. And it's just kind of cool to be around someone that has seen it, from a whole different side than I have. So that's also valuable. That's another thing of experiencing another culture, seeing a different opinion. It's okay to be, to be different. That's part of it. We got to talk about it. Sorry, I'm coming away from the mic. Man, I need an assistant. I can't smoke and drink and talk and record. And I actually did some notes here so I don't go 90 minutes on this. I need to try to stick to 30. So anyway, just learned a lot from Rebecca, and just kind of have an appreciation for, what nurses and people in the medical community have had to do during this last, 6-month span of pandemic. So yeah, thank you, Rebecca, for coming over. Always good to see you. And one thing I do love about these podcasts is I look back at, Robbie and Mitch and Julian and Lauren, Rebecca, now Kristen, and then Josh coming up next week, and then my friend Becca after that. Is every time I get to record with somebody, it really does take our relationship to the next level, because you do get so close and you get to actually have some intentional conversation and learn more about what makes that person themselves. And it's just kind of cool because I've always been close with like Lauren and Rebecca, and Mitch and I haven't always been tight. He's just been my financial advisor, and Julian and I haven't been more than customer and shop owner, but we've known each other. And it's amazing that when you see these people's lives, whether it's on social media or just in person after the fact, just you know so much more about them because they came on the podcast and we got to talk, and just getting to see some of the stories they told me, or seeing what makes them a man or a woman and their existence on this planet. And then you get to see that played out in certain things. You're like, oh yeah, I know why. Or that makes more sense to me now, or I appreciate that more now because I know where they came from, or whatever. So just getting to talk to somebody, it really does deepen your friendship with them. which kind of gave me the motif of this smoke and mirrors is just actually conversing. So, yeah, I've thought of Rebecca as a little sister for the last few years, even though I think she is older than me by a couple months, but she's still kind of like that little sister where I feel like she's, my girlfriend's sister, and just been so close with her and can trust her that, okay, that's how she feels. But then after having a conversation with her with the podcast, I was like, oh, I feel even closer to her. So that's just cool. That's a cool natural consequence of talking to somebody. It kind of brings me to the reflection of a month as a whole. So a lot has happened. I guess the most noteworthy events of September, NFL started back, which is nice. Go Chiefs. Definitely go Chiefs. But I guess probably the biggest two stories I'll kind of touch on and kind of give a little bit of input as, I guess, humbly as I can, so that I don't know everything about the whole situation. We never will. But Breonna Taylor was a pretty big deal in September. And I would also say the election. I mean, that's going to be a big deal for months, but we just had the debate last night, so that's a pretty big deal. All right, here we go. Let me preface it with this. I don't know the full story. You don't know the full story. None of us know the full story. None of us are ever going to know the truth about anything. I don't know if they'll ever reveal coronavirus and everything surrounding that while we're still alive. I believe there's a lot more to it. I don't believe we've been told the truth almost at all. And it's not like, oh, you're some big conspiracy theorist that doesn't think the virus exists. I do. It's a real virus. It's a real thing. People have died. It's sad. It's a tragedy. It truly is. Yeah, it truly is a tragedy. I just believe there's a lot more around it that we don't know, and we probably never will know. And all that to say, that's how it is with anything we hear. Whether it's the election, whether it's Breonna Taylor, whether it's, pick a name. It's a tragedy. A life was lost. We don't know exactly. There's been a narrative that, media have run with for, I guess, 6 months. Technically, I was in Louisville when Breonna Taylor, when it all happened, when she was killed. And I was up there for, I think, 2-3 days with my mom and never heard a thing about it. Now, to be fair, coronavirus had just taken off. This is when we were doing shutdowns. This is when governors and mayors were trying to make heads or tails of this thing. That was the only coverage, was coronavirus, or the COVID-19 coronavirus. So I think that's one reason, of course, that Breonna Taylor wasn't being covered. But also, like I said, I was up there the day it happened and never heard a thing about it the whole time I was there. Found out about it a little bit later when everyone else did. And I was like, oh. And just found out the other day when I decided to look back at my pictures that I took on March 13th was also the day that she was shot and killed by police. Now, so we had a narrative that was being used the last almost 6 months about what happened with Breonna Taylor. And then after the settlement with her family and after one of the police officers was charged and indicted, more stuff came out, and there's pretty much two sides. There's that quote about there's 3 sides to every story. There's, it's your side, then our side, and then the truth. We don't know the truth. We don't. All we know is a life was lost, and that's tragic. No matter if she was asleep in bed or if she was a criminal. Those are the both sides of the story now. Is, oh, she was a criminal, that's why police were there. And then others are like, oh no, she was asleep in bed, she wasn't a criminal, she got caught. Either way, she got caught in the crossfire and died. Both stories have proved that. So that's why it really is sad. And there's a whole community, not just a black community. Black community's hurting overall, but just people hurting for America. This is just another example of how America is flawed. So that was a pretty big deal. And then we have the debates, or at least the first one. Kamala Harris and Mike Pence will be debating next week for the vice presidential debate. So I'll go off the presidential debate. If you watched it, that was a mess. It was an absolute mess. There's a lot of reasons it was a mess. Trump and Biden were interrupting each other the whole time. Mostly Trump. Trump interrupted Biden more than Biden interrupted Trump. But also Biden started the interrupting. So, they're both at fault. it makes us look bad. It makes the country look bad. Yeah, Chris Wallace, he's never liked Trump, the moderator. Chris Wallace has never been a Trumper. So, and some of his questions had a slant. So, Trump's debating two people, but it looked childish. It looked like poor Chris Wallace couldn't ring him in. I mean, I don't know. Biden couldn't take a stance, and Trump couldn't stop interrupting, and then Chris Wallace couldn't get a handle on the whole situation. So just at the end of the day, I don't think anybody won the debate. Everyone lost. It looked bad. It doesn't bode well for our country when you look at that and think, oh, these are our two best candidates. Now, again, there's a lot more at play than, just two presidential candidates. There's a lot more to the story, of course. But just looking at that, I think you can kind of look through the debate almost as a proverbial keyhole into the rest of our country, as nobody left there saying, oh, I came in as an undecided voter, completely unbiased, wanting to look at things completely objectively and determine which candidate will be best for me to vote for November 3rd. All it did was I was set on Trump, and after that debate, I'm for sure voting Trump. I was set on Biden. After that debate, I'm for sure voting Biden. Or I hate them both. They're both not qualified. They're both not the president I want, so I'm not going to vote at all, or I'm going to do a write-in. That's all it did. It just solidified what we already knew. It just reinforced our predetermined beliefs, which is tough because that doesn't help heal anything. So that's why when you look at that, man, we are in quite the state, the United States. So if you'll just pardon me for a second, I got to get my cigar going again. Okay. What does this mean? Where do we go? What do we do? I don't know. I'm 24. I just turned 24. I'm still in college, wrapping up. I have a very limited life experience, even though I've gotten to experience a lot and go a lot of cool places. I don't know. I don't know all the answers. I just know what we see. One thing I will say, let me go ahead and read this off. This is a great quote. I don't know when I first heard it, but it keeps popping back up with all the stuff going on. And then my roommate actually got it on his wall here not too long ago. It's a Teddy Roosevelt quote. So he was president. He was a man among boys, Teddy Roosevelt. Here we go. You've probably heard it. It's called The Man in the Arena. Let me read it real quickly. It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or whether the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasm, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat. Theodore Roosevelt. All that to say, I love the idea of failing confidently. I mean, all the greats, all the successful people have done that. I'm going to fail, at least I'm going to fail confidently. So I like that side. But on top of that, it is so easy to criticize everything we see when we're not the ones doing it, when we're not the men in the arena. We're not the women in the arena. It's so easy to criticize. Now, that doesn't mean I can't criticize Trump. I can't criticize Biden because I'm not sitting on that debate stage. I think it means when you look at everything as a whole, man, it is so easy to criticize everything we see that's not right, because here's the fact of the matter. Anybody who's listening right now, if you're alive, unless you're a couple generations in front of me, you didn't do anything to build this. And that's not saying we're not, contributing at all We are. We still are. The younger generations are still contributing. We're building society. We're fighting. But everything that we see, it's so easy to criticize and to sit back holier than thou and say, look at all the stuff that's wrong because of stuff that's already been put in place by the people in front of us. They did it wrong. Well, they don't know as much as we did. We've learned a lot more, and then people are going to look back at us, 2, 3, 4, 5 generations from now, especially 500 years, the way we view Columbus now, who's died over 500 years ago. They're going to look at us and say, look at what were they doing? And they're going to judge us the same way we're judging people. Now, everything that was done was not perfect. Even though it's yielded a lot of great results, it wasn't perfect. But because of what it yielded, we're able to, sit back here lazily and sit there and point fingers and say what we would have done better and what we should have done differently, because we didn't have to do it. We never had to scale mountains and cross rivers and build civilizations from the ground up. We never had to fight people that were coming to say, oh, hey, they made this little plot of land. Let's go take it over and make it ourselves. We never had to fight that. That was all the people in front of us. We never had to storm beaches in Normandy. We never had to, lie about our age to get in and fight for democracy. Like we never did all that. And of course, not all those decisions were perfect or right. And we faked a lot of wars for a lot of other reasons, which are not good. But in terms of what America offers now, very few of us built that or helped contribute to it. We're just reaping the benefits. We're like the trust fund babies of it all. We're complete beneficiaries of the system that's already been put in place. So of course it is easy to criticize it when we never had to fight for it. We didn't realize all the toil, the blood, the sweat, the tears, the calluses on the hands of the men and women who had to sit here and build it, because we didn't have to. So of course it's so easy. One thing we can do going forward, I truly do believe this, is just to have honest conversation. It is. It's admitting when we're wrong. It's even, in a way, taking a chance to be wrong. There's a lot of censorship. There's a lot of cancel culture. I talk about it all the time because I see it all the time. My friend Kristen came on, and there was topics we talked about in advance over text or in person or after recording that we couldn't get into because of cancel culture. If that's put on the air, now this is my podcast. Worst comes to worst, Apple pulls it, Spotify pulls it, whoever has it up can pull it. But I can say what I want because this is my podcast. This is my money, whatever. But when somebody representing a bigger thing than themselves comes on and says something that's not popular, well, cancel culture will pull them out of their job. And you may say, well, it's because it's bigotry what they're saying. Yeah, that's fine. You're absolutely allowed to believe that. However, we are not making any progress when all we're doing is blame game. We're not, which is exactly what the presidential debate was. It was, here's another reason you're crappier than I am. I mean, it didn't do anything but, like I said, all it did was reinforce what we already believed, which is not good. That's not helping us get better at all. We need honest conversations. Some of the best conversations I've had. So racial stuff has been big forever in America. It's always been big. It's been big around the world because slavery was way more than America and way bigger in other places than America. So now the world's having to come to grips with, oh, okay, black people were treated as second-class citizens for hundreds of years in the vast majority of the countries. And let's look at the wake of that. And here's where we're at now. And so now we need to have honest conversations about it. Hold on, the cigar, man. Hold on. So we need to have honest conversations. And I've had some very honest conversations with black people in Memphis and Nashville, other places I've been. But, my ties are mostly Memphis and Nashville, so I know more people. And the best results I've seen is when we've had group discussions, black people, white people, mixed people. Not saying there's only black and white. There's a lot more ethnicities, and there's a lot more discussion needs to be had. But when we can sit down, and most of the time, too, it's been black Christians and white Christians, so we know that there's this higher authority. But even when you're not a Christian or of any world faith, being able to sit down and have an honest conversation. Okay, here's how we've been hurt by X group, Y group, Z group, whatever. And saying it's nothing personal. It's not some big generalization about every single person of that color. It's just saying, here's what I've experienced, and we have to have an honest conversation about it in order to move forward. And we're not. We're not doing that. Because if you say something that's unpopular, you're canceled. And so now we're seeing this reversal of, well, white people have treated black people this way for so many years. So now the tables are starting to turn. In order to make up for that, we need to start saying, okay, people not necessarily returning the favor, but now we're going to overcompensate for all the ground that we've lost, which is, I mean, that's not right either. It shouldn't have been done to begin with. I mean, it's a result of a fallen world. I don't think anybody's trying to make light of slavery or any form of racism, because, I mean, it goes all ways. Racism's a hard issue. People are racist towards other people, no matter what color you are, no matter what color the person on the receiving end of racism is, and vice versa. Racism, it's always going to be around. So in order to start actually conquering, we have to have honest conversations. And we should be allowed to sit down and say, okay, here's my experiences. Here's the stuff I've seen. And it's nothing personal. It's just real. And then we go, okay, we know it's not personal. Thank you for sharing that. How can we help move forward? And I've had some such great conversations with, and I'm going to talk black-white because that's one of the big issues in America now, even though there's a lot more than just black-white. When you leave there and you go, okay, I understand why my black friend feels this way. And hopefully they understand how, I'm probably frustrated as a white guy. Because it's tough when you hear these generalizations coming from media, social media, people you don't know, people you do know. And you go, wait a second, I've been trying pretty hard as a white person to bridge this gap. And then you hear these generalizations about how white people only want to do this to black people. Well, that's not true, because I'm white and there's a lot of other white people I know that are working very hard. But then we have these generalizations about this whole group of people. And it's the same happening, to black people and to Hispanic people and Middle Eastern people and Asian people and whatever, indigenous people, natives. There's always stereotypes always come from somewhere. So sadly, they're always going to supersede what we actually know, or these stereotypes. But man, when I've had these honest conversations with people, you leave there united. You leave there the same way you leave the podcast going, hey, I know this person better, therefore I love this person more. That all comes from honest conversation. We have to start having them. If we can't sit down and have honest conversations about, you pick a topic, man. Talk about, president. Whoever the president's going to be come November, probably realistically December or January after they count all the mail-ins. If we need to talk about, who's in office, or we want to talk about police reform, or you want to talk about higher education, if you want to talk about, women's rights, whatever you want to talk about, pick a topic. We have to sit down and have honest conversations. And it's okay that we're not all going to agree on it. But if we don't sit down and actually talk about what we think, what we believe, what our stance is, and why it's that way, that nobody's stance is truly arbitrary, even if it looks ridiculous and illogical, there are a lot of things leading somebody to believe what they believe. There are a lot of experiences backing that. We got to sit down and talk about it. It's nothing personal. It's just honest conversation. That's all it is. And people need to honestly step up and do it. And I know it's hard. And I don't have as much at stake as a lot of people in the public spotlight. I got, a couple hundred people that may hear this, and that's it. I may lose a couple followers, and that's all I really have to gain or lose. There's a lot more people, a lot more at stake. I understand that. But at some point, if we truly want change, any of us, anybody listening, anybody I'll have on, anybody I have out on, we do have to step up and have honest conversations. Because not only do we humanize each other more because of it, but we do draw closer. And we do realize, okay, that's why people believe what they believe, think what they think. We don't have any right to cancel somebody over that, even if we disagree with them. There was room. The Constitution, the words themselves might actually be one of the greatest documents ever drafted. It might. It's the longest active governing piece of literature. America is one of the youngest countries, yet the Constitution has outlasted about every other major country's governing piece of literature, because it taught us that no matter where you come from, you need to be given equal opportunity, no matter what you look like, what gender you are, what your parents did, what country you originated from. When you come to this land, here's your opportunity. You have the same rights, because man can't give you those rights. Those rights came from God. That's why it works. Whether the men writing them were slave owners or not, those words work. The Constitution's for everybody. The First Amendment's for everybody. The Second Amendment's for everybody. The Third, Fourth, 10th, the 13th, all of it. All of it. We have to have honest conversations. We can't censor each other. We should be able to say what we want to say. If you look ridiculous, you look ridiculous. That person, they'll automatically get canceled, because people won't get behind those ideas. They'll die out. They'll wither away. That's why we shouldn't be scared to have conversations. We should be able to sit there and talk about Breonna Taylor. Both sides come together and say, hey, here's our stance, here's what we're thinking, and not saying, here's the facts we know, and there's the facts you know, and I'm right, you're wrong. Let's sit here and talk about it, because it's not just about Breonna Taylor. There's a lot more stuff at play. It's about the bigger picture. All right, here's what I want to end on. I love this quote from Dwight D. Eisenhower. Ike, the man Ike, another Kansas boy. I love this quote. He said, "Leadership consists of nothing but taking responsibility for everything that goes wrong and giving your subordinates credit for everything that goes well." I share that because if we are truly going to step up and make a positive change and start coming together as a country, we need to give credit where credit is due, but we need good leaders. And I'm not saying I'm a great leader because I read off somebody else's quote. I do love the quote, though. And especially as we pick presidents coming up here in the next month and a half, we need strong leaders. America wasn't built overnight. We know, Rome wasn't built in a day. A lot of people built this. A lot of people contributed to this. The world as we know it was built by the generations that came before us. There was a lot of bridge builders. There were a lot of leaders. And now we're at the point where all we do is we're just crossing over these bridges that have been built. We have the easy job. But at some point, times are going to get hard. And right now we're in hard times. So we need more bridge builders. Bridge builders have to step up. Leaders have to step up. And I love that quote. All leadership is, hey, if it went well, it was because they did a good job. And if it went poorly, that's because I didn't carry my weight. There's something I could have done differently to avoid this outcome. Thank you guys for listening. Again, let's have honest conversations. Let's talk. Feel free to come on. I'll allow about anybody to come on this podcast. Again, you just can't cuss. Everyone's been good about it. We can talk. We can have honest conversations. We need to step up. We need to lead. We need leaders in every facet. There's a lot of people being represented in the United States and around the world because stuff is getting so mixed and mangled. We have a lot of different groups, a lot of different representations. So we need strong leaders to step up. Again, when you do it, you get closer and you get a good story out of it. Thank you guys for listening. That was Smoke and Mirrors, just a reflection on the month of September 2020. And I'm going to begin Sober October here after the cigar. Thank you guys again for listening. Thank you again for texting me and just encouraging me and liking stuff and following stuff and rating stuff, and just be honest. Helps me get better. I want to do this long term. Thank you for a great month of September. Looking forward to an even better month of October. See you guys on the other side.